All right, Chavra, we are continuing, and tonight's learning is going to be dedicated to ripping on prom as an institution. So buckle up. We will try to find places in our learning throughout to take shots at the institution of prom and all those who
I
go
thought you
to
were gonna say
prom.
take actual shots.
Oh, that's a good pun, but no, we're going to take shots at
Okay.
those who engage in such things, as it is shameful. Shame, lots of shame. Anyway, um, so let's jump in. We are going to try to finish chapter 9 over here. We are talking about advice of spiritual elevation, self-improvement. We were talking about the midah of anger, using it as an example, but a lot of these principles can be extended to a lot of different midos as well. What was the underlying motivation here is that a person has to be, to some degree, their own Rebbe sometimes. You have to be able to monitor your own actions and tell yourself what you need to hear at times as well, to be able to muster yourself. So we're on page 179. No, we're not.
We're on the bottom of 201.
Yeah, we're on 201.
Oh, sorry, my whole thing
Hi,
flipped.
Viv.
Hi, Aviv.
Hello.
Who that?
That's
Hey,
my Talmud award-winning buddy.
Ma-
Yes,
Mazel Tov on your big
Talmud
award.
award-winning buddy. Good job, Brianna.
Good job, Aviv. Nice work.
Thank you. You too.
Great.
I don't know what we did.
Take that award to prom and show everybody. All right. In general,
Stop.
it is worth objecting to the fact that nowadays the word anger has been replaced by euphemisms like nervous or agitated. This allows a person to absolve themselves of the negative of the severity of the character trait, not calling yourself out for what it is. Or similar to, um, which safer is it? Oh, I forgot what it is, but basically saying that oh, it's not a safer. It's at the end of Mishnayos in Sota and the Gemara Sanhedrin, where it talks about that a person will live in the Ikvus Mashiach in the world where the evil will be so rampant, where a person will just, if you try to chastise them and say like what you're doing is wrong, they'll say, well, what do you mean? Everyone else is doing it. How do I know better, right? And I think the Ramchal talks in Mesilas Yesharim saying also that is there a person in this world without sin? So my sins are not that bad. So the fact that I have this issue, it's not a big deal. It's very commonplace. It's a natural side effect of things like that. They'll say, well, it's just an innate psychological weakness, not a negative character trait that I'm responsible for improving. And the midah there is to absolve yourself of responsibility. If you have an issue with yourself and you say, well, that's just what it is, similar to those who go to prom who say, like, what do you mean everybody does it? Oh, so just because everybody does it, that all of a sudden it makes it not a shameful and pitiful thing to do? Of course it is. Doesn't absolve you of that. Is it true that anger is aroused by agitated nerves? Let us analyze why is it that the Gentile's anger is provoked against someone. He is even ready to kill, where a simple Jew will only use physical force. And a Jew on a higher spiritual level, again, he's writing at a certain time period, right? This is very right before World War II. So you can imagine. On a higher spiritual level, that will neither kill nor hit, but will only fumigate and use harsh language, despite the fact that their nerves all suffer from the same weakness, that they do not resort to the same negative behaviors while they are angry. The answer is actually quite simple. When a person is awake, he can place limits on himself that will continue to function even once he has fallen asleep. And that's why when he rolls around in his sleep and he reaches to the edge of the bed, he immediately moves back in the other direction rather than falling onto the floor. Even though he's asleep and his intellect is not functioning, the awareness that he has while he's awake continues to limit his movements, even when the consciousness is unaware. Basically, what he's saying is that you can mold your habits and your behaviors, your thoughts. Everything is within your control and power, and it extends to before. When a person says like, "Oh, I got angry," or "I had this intrusive thought," or whatever, it took control of me. You're still responsible because you can recondition your habits in a way that can reprogram sort of the way that you act and you operate. You don't have to go and do things out of route. And again, we will mourn those who step into a prom without even knowing that what they're doing is wrong, because they're just stuck in that pattern. But Danelle and I are reading a book right now called Atomic Habits, plug, and Shira and Hadar. I don't know why well, because you guys are not active in the chat as much, but it's talking about how to reprogram your things. And in chapter 5, he makes mention to that if you develop your habits in a certain way, then naturally they are just going to be automatic. Similar to the example that Pizetson uses here, or even in your sleep. It just is what it is because that's who you are. Your habits become your character. The same principle can be applied in all kinds of situations. The knowledge and understanding that are eternalized within a person having the power to exercise total control over him, and even when he is consciously unaware of that knowledge, a simple Jew has the restraint not to kill someone in anger, even when he is angry and his nerves are frazzled. By the way, having control over a person's anger is a great feeling. It's a sense of power. As the Pirkei Avos says, Gibor Kovish es Yitzra, someone who conquers their heart. That's real strength. And a Jew is responsible for those things, 100%. The cranky old man who has terrible, character traits and habits and things like that. You can't blame him. He's been living that way for 40 years. But 40 years ago, when you had the ability to change it, what did you do? Are you responsible? Yeah, to some degree. You do have the ability. Hashem gave you the ability to be able to mold. You have the agency. You can choose how you want to develop yourself, the lifestyle, the habits, all those different things. Yo.
Were you saying, oh, we can't blame him because that's just what people say? Or you think that we can't blame him because he's been living that way so long? Because
Again, I want to be careful that we can't pass judgment on individuals. I want to just preference that. But like when you meet somebody who has a crazy short fuse and they're in their 50s, they're not changing.
obviously it's hard. Yeah, they're not changing their ways, but like,
Right. So now the responsible thing is also to not pass heavy judgment on them for that. Obviously, if they're doing things that are absolutely wrong, it needs to be called out, but also to say, like, have a little mercy. Like, listen, this guy's a short fuse, but this is just the way that he lives. Like, you know, it's his habit. Like he's been living, that's how he's been for decades. So like there has to be a little element of non-judgmentalism because like when he gets angry, he doesn't even realize, or she doesn't even realize she's getting angry. It's totally ingrained in their character. But all right, so does that mean they're absolved? Like after 120, when they're sitting in front of Hashem, like, oh well, I didn't have any control over that. Of course you did. You got to choose how to mold, and you had a time period where there was an open window to uproot bad habits and implement good habits, and you didn't do that. So yeah, now it's your fault for sure. If people are, if you damage another person, if you raise your child in a certain way and they are that way, like yeah, there's certain things that will carry with you in decades to come. Can't absolve yourself of that. A Jew is on the higher level of spiritual consciousness and will also refrain from using any kind of physical force. After he spends time thinking and making conscious decisions to not get angry anymore, as we've said before, and even when his nerves are frayed and he is not consciously aware of the concept he has internalized, his inner understanding will restrain him and he won't even lash out verbally, despite the fact that his anger has been aroused. There is, again, this is a din in Zahirus, in self-awareness. Even in the book, the Atomic Habits that we're reading, he talks about the midah of self-awareness of Zahirus. If you're not self-aware, then if you can't identify a bad habit, how can you uproot it and change it? But even in this book, in the very beginning, he talked about Zahirus. And in the Mesilas Yesharim, he talks about Zahirus. Why? Because when you're aware, motivation comes from you being able to give yourself a pep talk, calling yourself out. That if you're on a high spiritual plane, you can look at yourself and say, this should not be done. I should not be doing this. And if you do that enough, that can motivate a person, give them the strength to be able to actually implement change in their behavior. How do you stop being angry? You have to tell yourself you are not allowed to get angry. Over time, that actually does have a profound impact. Yeah, sure.
If a person, let's say, like learns, like I'll just give myself as an example. If I learn that there's something that I've been doing in Judaism that's wrong and I never knew it before, and then every time I do it, now I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, I should not be doing this. This is wrong. But it's not like a big deal like murdering someone, but it's a small thing, but it's still wrong. So now, like, am I responsible to change it right then and there? And because then sometimes in my head it's like now I can't stop thinking about how that thing is wrong, but I'm doing it anyway, but then I'm fearful and I don't know what to do.
Now, first of all, don't be so sure that it's not such a big deal, right? A lot of times we're like, we miscategorize certain things. Like we look at things as not a big deal when they are a huge deal. And then other times we look at other things, we're like, oh my God, this is the biggest deal. When it's like, no, it's not so big of a deal. So speak to your local rabbi mentor and get perspective on how big of a deal things are. But to answer your question, we talked about this a few chapters ago. The most important word when it comes to growth is always and will always be healthy. That things have to be healthy. Is doing a bad thing wrong? Of course it is. Now, to what extent should that eat you up inside? If you're asking me, hey, should I work on that? Should I want to improve it? Why wouldn't you? Of course you should. Now, what the game plan looks like, right? Does that mean cold turkey? Does it mean where are you at emotionally? What's your state? Where you're at? What level you are? There's a lot of factors to play in. The answer will never change. Working on a bad thing, of course, you're supposed to work on a bad thing. The answer is you have to just do it in a healthy way. Now, what is the healthy way? That's different for each person. You have to factor in all the different things, and then you have to have the self-awareness to say, am I giving myself an excuse by telling myself like, oh, that's beyond me to work on it right now, right? A person should not feel guilty when they're doing the right thing. And even if they're doing on paper, right? I'm not doing the right thing on paper because I'm not there yet. If that is right and true, and you get the confirmation from your mentor and your rebbeim, then there's the guilt doesn't exist. How could it? I'm gonna be guilty about something where it's like,
Yeah.
if my wife is like, asked me to like, stay home from shul because she needs help. There's a certain situation going on. Am I to sit there and feel, yeah, there's a part of me was like, okay, yeah. But to sit there and be like, oh, I feel so bad that I miss Minyan. No,
Hmm.
no,
Hmm.
because that's not the right thing to do at that time, you know, in that situation. So it doesn't,
Hmm.
if a person's doing things in a healthy way, it usually doesn't carry guilt.
Okay.
Guilt can come because of, again, we have a neshama, and Jewish guilt can come from that voice that can tell you, listen, deep down there is more you could be doing. And therefore, that voice could be your best friend. It can't ruin you, but it could be your best friend because it's always keeping you honest. It won't
Hmm.
allow you to sink into this pit of giving myself excuses so I can get myself off the hook. That's the worst thing possible. How do you know what's healthy and what's not? Typically, you're not supposed to navigate that on your own. You're supposed to talk to your people, your trusted mentors. You're supposed to talk those things out and make sure that it makes sense and your hashkafas are properly aligned.
Hmm. Thank you.
Yeah. It's like when the girl after TJJ 1 year called me to say, "Hey, should I go to this party? It's on Friday night, but I'm trying to keep Shabbat." Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, obviously, you're not asking me, should you go to a party and break Shabbat? Because the answer obviously is, should I break Shabbat? Is no. But that's not what you're asking. In the context of who you are in your journey, in your story, breaking Shabbat is never going to be right unless it's to save a life, right? You're asking, right? In my level, is this what should be expected of me? And that's a lot more of a nuanced and potentially complicated question.
Hmm.
All right. So a Jew who is on a higher spiritual consciousness will also refrain from using any. Okay, we said this already. Now, what happens is if you have a simmering hatred towards one in your group, and you would like to rid yourself of that feeling, but you can't. Obviously, as a result of your hatred towards him, and you see him as a vicious character flaw and wrongful actions, first remove the anger that lies in your heart. Only then will you be able to see if he really has more character flaws than you do. Right? If you're blinding yourself to the emotion, maybe you can look at it from a more intellectual standpoint, right? To have control. Chovas Yitzro. But like we said, you want to clear the hatred from your heart, but you aren't managing to do so. So try the following exercise. Write him a letter. Where did I get that from? Don't send it, just hide it somewhere. In that letter, disparage him as much as angry snake that you have inside that you have inside wants to. For a few days, take out the letter and read it aloud. Imagine you are standing up opposite the person you hate, and you are throwing all the slurs and insults in that letter straight in his face. After a few days of this, the anger will surely leave your heart. And if you have a minimal degree of sensitivity, you will run up to make up with him too. It's uh it's a crazy call, but I doubt anybody here suffers with that level of hatred and
Would you
animosity.
recommend that to somebody?
I mean, yeah, like I've never tried it, but it's like thinking about it, sounds like it could work. I have done it. I think it's incredibly therapeutic. When someone really wants to like, there's two types of letters. When someone is struggling with the relationship with their parents, right? And they just like have all these feelings and stuff like that. So there is the letter that goes to them, but sometimes they'll say, write a letter that's not going to go to them or to a friend. Write and just free write and just let it all out. Just go all out. It's
But
never going to be
like
sent.
he says here, he says read it over and over again as if you're saying it to them. Isn't that a little like feeding into like the anger? Like
No,
that
no,
like he's
because talking things out in general usually
but he's
loosens.
not actually talking like let's say like he was talking it out and now the parent like was like he's not getting any response back or any like
No, because it's not
validation
about
for
none of this is about the other person. Everything is about you. Rabbi Kiva Tass says it's a psychological principle that talking, why does talking and letting things off people's chest make them feel better? Because when you take things from the world of feeling, spiritual, emotional, and you make it physical by the pathway of speech, you're lessening the load. There are certain things that cannot be said. For example, right, the Hughes example, there's certain Holocaust survivors who they can't talk about their experience because there's no words that they can, whatever. As opposed to somebody sitting in an office of a therapist, a psychotherapist, and they're talking about their struggle, it makes them feel better just by releasing that stuff. So it's a similar thing. Is this guy worthy of your forgiveness? Maybe not. But his point is that anger is a disease that will eat you, and you want it to. So when you're standing there reading this stuff, you start to feel like, I don't really like it's kind of intense. And then on the next day, it's like, this is too much. I need to over time, you keep doing it, and then you're like, all right, I feel better. I no longer have this level of anger, you know? So, but for the people that I've suggested to write letters to people that they're really upset with, you're never going to send it, but it's very therapeutic. They get it all out. It never makes its way to that person, but they get it all out. That's a help, that's his strategy. Yeah, Mashiach, a little.
I was just gonna say that, like, as you kind of already said it, but I was gonna say that it could be like writing, like doing this, could be like mm, reading it over and over again out loud to yourself can make you like see like what am I even saying? Like it makes you like realize like this is not actually like who I am. Like why am I like being like that?
Correct. Correct. You're gonna start to not like the person that you're like, what am I doing? You know what I mean? And by the way, think about it like this. We've all been like red hot angry before in the past. There's times where some time goes by and we look back at ourselves and the scene we made and we're a little embarrassed. We're like, yeah, that was a little bit OD. Like I really lost myself. In the moment, it felt so good and you're like, felt so right. And then you give it like a week or two and you're kind of like, I kind of I went overboard a little bit. So it's kind of exposing yourself a little bit, slowly. Again, anger is an issue within us. Not to say that there aren't people that out there that we shouldn't hate. There is an individual or two that I hate, but they don't make me angry. But I intellectually, like I say, I hate this person. I really do. They don't make me angry. You know what I mean? They could make me angry, but for the most part, not. I've removed anger from my heart in that sense, so it doesn't have to control me. His primary focus is you as the kli, the shliach. Don't be so astonished by this advice, and don't say this advice is one of two things. Either it's a lie or it's witchcraft. Can it be that I write an insulting letter and even read it aloud and then want to reconcile and even appease the person? No, it's not a lie, and no, it is not witchcraft. This is the way the human psyche works. When a person, what I always find amazing, that when I was in college and we were taking advanced experimental psychology, my Professor Beck, every concept and theory he brought up, I would sit there and go, yeah, no, that's not Maslow, and no, that's not Pavlov, and this is Judaism, this is Shlomo HaMelech, this is these are Sifrei Musar, this is Pirkei Avos, every concept and idea, I was like, this is something we learned, we learned in Judaism, which is really, really cool. Anyway, this is cool. The Piazetzner, who certainly did not go to university or anything like that, understands the human psyche so well. When a person disparagingly and insults someone he hates, his anger dissipates slightly. But since the other one answers him back, that infuriates him all over again. That's the cycle. When you go and express this to the person, now you're in a fight, and they're the one fueling your fire. If you were having just a fight and you were insulting the person, but there was no one there to insult you back, then it would kind of die out. You're like, this is stupid. This is kind of silly. However, once you've written a scathing letter and express your extreme animosity, you will have read it aloud and you would derided the person, your anger will subside somewhat. Similar if you went to your own prom. If you threw a prom by yourself and just had prom, let's say, in your room of your house, you'd be like, wow, this is really silly. This is stupid, right? So just because I'm around a lot of other silly and stupid people who are doing this thing, and then it seems like it's right, but if you do it by yourself, you're like, this is actually kind of dumb. I shouldn't spend my time doing these things.
You
Right?
can't do it by yourself. The whole point is it's with the other people.
So that you don't have to feel dumb about yourself.
No, I mean,
I
how
get
could
it.
you host a prom alone?
Well, I mean, what do you do at a prom? Why can't you do that in your house?
I'm trying to picture prom in my room right now.
Look pretty dumb, huh? All right.
Well,
On a second,
you can't do any
who's
party
gonna
or
take the
any
pictures?
dance like event like a wedding. Oh. Are you thinking of the pictures? I was thinking of like the dancing, like at a wedding, you're not dancing by yourself, you're dancing with everyone else. I don't know. That's how I would think of it.
It's a good point. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. I was like, we went a few paragraphs without taking a shot
We
at
just
prom.
needed like one more prom shot
We had to bring it back. We had to bring it back there for
for
Chaya
our
Sufis.
main point.
Yeah, yeah. On the
Right.
second day, when your anger is lessened, you will read the same letter again with all of its invectives. It's good words. As you lash out according to the way you originally felt when your anger was great, your heart will begin to have guilt pangs on its own, and it will say, do you really have to say all these awful things? You will no longer be able to read all of these degrading comments with the same degree of anger as you did on the first day. But since you've decided that you're going to read it and your anger hasn't dissipated completely, you force yourself to read it through. On the third day, your anger will have dissipated even further and you won't be able to read the letter anymore. You'll regret that you've exposed yourself like that. And that's the key. You'll expose yourself. And you will leave and curse the other person so viciously. You'll find yourself looking for ways to patch things up with him until you'll make peace. Someone who is naturally good-hearted will resolve things quickly, while someone who is stubborn may need to read the letter a few more times. But with Hashem's help, this will help everyone involved make amends. However, you shouldn't resort to writing this letter very often, and when you do, be extremely careful not to lose it, and make sure no one sees it, even your closest friends. Obviously, you just gotta rip it up. Because if the person you wrote about finds what you wrote, he will become extremely angry at you, and that's no bueno. Like we said earlier, you can find practical solutions for everything. For example, let's say you're trying to work on your laziness that manifests itself in oversleeping because you really love to sleep, or you're exhausted because you worked hard on a specific day and you're afraid you might oversleep the next morning. Try the following. Don't sleep lengthwise on your bed, sleep sideways, and rest your feet in the air. As soon as you wake up in the morning, push a chair away with your feet, and you'll already be in a half standing position. Yeah, it's a little bit much, but like we all know, like if you have a flight to catch and like you don't want to, so you sleep less comfortably so that you don't have the ability to fall into a deep sleep. He is very much, by the way, it's so crazy. This is so in line with, again, atomic habits, like how you set yourself up for success by changing behaviors. Yeah, Danielle.
I don't really hop what he's saying here about the sleeping.
He's saying that there are methods that if a person can identify what's wrong with you, that it's within your ability. He's just providing random examples and strategies how to do it. But the point is that you can be anything that you want. You do not have to be certain things. If you can identify that there is a negative midah inside of you, you are responsible to elevate yourself and to. I really believe that a post TJJ, most kids don't begin their journey of growth because they look at the people they respect and they look up to and they think to themselves, that's not me. I'm not capable of getting there. Why wouldn't you want, if you look up to someone and you look up to someone as a mentor or role model, why wouldn't you want to become like them? You would, but you believe in yourself. Oh, I look up to them because I'm down here. I'm not capable of doing those things. And that's the enemy. That's the Yetzer Hara. That's poison to Judaism. You are capable of becoming anything that you want. And it's not a fluffy motivational speech. It's the way that God created us. He gave us free will. He gave us the ability to mold our stuff, our character. We have a brain, which is seichel. We can identify poor habits and bad behavior, right? Like that's the one thing that book is missing because it's not a Jewish book. He's like, yeah, we could do all these. He's providing all the strategies. But the reality is, Hashem put you here and said, you have the ability to become anything that you want. That's not like a half-hearted motivational speech. It's saying you literally have the tools. You want to be a certain way, start doing the thing, right? Start making those changes that will implement. You want to go at your laziness, right? You got to start waking up out of bed 6 a.m. every single morning. How do you do that? There are strategies, but by doing that, a few months go by, a few years go by, you're no longer a lazy person. You will have uprooted the negative midah from your entire existence. As soon as you wake up in the morning, push away the okay, but only if you do this. If it won't have an adverse effect on your health, and if it won't make you tired the entire day because you didn't sleep well at night. In any case, you shouldn't do this more than twice a week. Wow, shkoyach on the on that advice because, like I said, it's got to be healthy. That's his ikr. His ikr is that it has to be healthy. There are strategies, there are goals, and there are ways to implement them. A person has to do it in a healthy way to elevate your character. This is the end of chapter 9. And we are going to, do you want to stop here or do you want to break into chapter 13 a little bit.
Can we start 13?
We can start 13. Um, okay. So chapter 13 is on page 287. And it's the final chapter in the book. So at least we'll be able to finish this chapter because I find it to be the most, between chapter 1 and chapter 13 are the two most powerful chapters in this book because this book was written for teenagers. Chapter 1, and why did I highlight that? Why do I work with teens specifically? Because I think teenage years are the most formidable years of your life. It is the stage in life where you are in the state of searching to try to figure out who you are. You also are in the best position to be able to mold yourself into anything you want to be. Maybe people are already in their 20s, they've already started down a path. They want to change a path, it requires uprooting. Teenagers don't have to uproot much in terms of their journey because they're still forging their way through life. So it's a character development safer that's directed at teenagers because this is how you empower yourself when you begin and go on your journey. Chapter 1 primarily was talking about what it is to be a yid, what it is to be a yid and recognizing your worth and your value and the fact that you are an Am Segula, realizing that before there's any sort of self-redeeming qualities that you're a Yid and that you're special just because you're born into the Jewish people and should have a tremendous sense of pride to understand why we're here, what our purpose is and what we're doing here. So it pumps a person up because that, as he said, is a prerequisite to having enjoyment. If a person is living life and they're practicing Judaism as they should, and it's not the most euphoric experience ever, or at least very enjoyable, it means that they're lacking that initial thing. They're lacking the understanding of how special they are to be Jewish and how fortunate they are to be able to have God's Torah. And then if you don't enjoy practicing Judaism, it's going to prevent you from wanting to learn more about Judaism. And if you don't want to learn more about Judaism, you're never going to feel that sense of pride. You're never going to have that ability to be able to connect. It's a vicious triangle cycle. So that's chapter 1. Chapter 13, Shelo lahachmitz es atzmai. Don't miss out on yourself. I said in English, don't miss out on self-realization. Don't miss out on it. Because, and this is what we'll talk about in the chapter, this is the sense of urgency and realizing that, and I remember this because I was a teenager, years ago, and I remember feeling that you have this like feeling inside that this is just the way life is and it's always going to be this way. Like the real, you're going to grow up, but the real thought of like one day I will be an adult, it's not really a serious consideration. Like at least I feel emotionally like, no, I'm a teenager. Like this is where I'm like, this is my life. And then, everything that's happening these years is so important. And then comes I think we talked about it before. Hadar had a hard time with it, right? The youth is wasted on the young. Because only when you get older and then you turn around and look at your teenage years and you go, yo, those were the years. Not because I had prom, God forbid. No, you can debase yourself when you're older also. You can also do things that are very unbecoming of yourself and a Jew when you're at any age, really. So that's not it. But it's looking back and saying that I had the opportunity and now I don't have that opportunity. What's that opportunity? That opportunity is the ability to be able to mold yourself, change your habits in the easiest way. It's not easy to change your habits, but you have the ability to be able to, before you wrote on the paper, to forge a path into who the person you want to be. And that door doesn't ever fully close, but it closes exponentially when you hit your mid-20s. When the brain stops developing and you have all these other responsibilities, don't miss it. Don't miss it. Don't be the parents who you go on and on the phone to me, and I'm not bashing them. I'm a listening ear, and I show a lot of empathy when they're just like, oh, I wish I had the opportunity my daughter did when all these, and I go, yeah, I wish you did too, but unfortunately, you can't go back in time. You can't have those experiences, and therefore your life is what it is. And the chances of you changing in any sort of a significant way as teenagers do, you're not going to get that experience, and that sucks. It's very hard. So if you're a teenager and you know that now, you could take your life so serious. You know how to spend your time productively. Yes, I absolutely should go back to Israel on a growth-oriented program to be able to inspire myself so I can figure out and make the necessary changes and adjustments in my direction in life and also know where to not go to, like prom. Yeah, sure.
I just have a comment. Um, I also want to add that I feel like the teenage years for us is the strangest time of your life also because it's a time where you're expected to still be like to expect it to already be mature and already be like growing and learning and figuring out your future while you're also expected to just be a kid and not have to take on the pressures that an adult might take on like finding that balance is probably one of the hardest things about our age. I just want to add that but
And I blame American society. I blame the culture in this country that has skewed and taken things that are good and really messed them up. What should you just party your life away and just enjoy every moment? No, it's important to enjoy life as a high school student, but these are the years of formable molding of your character. Um, right? Molding your character. And that is everything. And the things that you learn, for example, in high school, the biggest benefit and value of high school is learning accountability, structure, right? The stuff you learn in class doesn't really matter. Like, I'm sorry to all the math teachers out there, like, you're stupid tricking it. Like half the people won't use it, and you're going to learn it the exact same thing again in college, and you have a computer, so relax yourself. The content you're learning doesn't matter. But exercising your brain, critical thinking, understanding accountability and structure, those are the things. Your midos, your character, that is the most important thing and focus in high school. And unfortunately, the means to the end, school being the means to the end, being the development of you as a person, the maturing process, which really matters, has become an end in and of itself. And then we totally forget about character development. So we have no integrity. That's why everybody cheats in school because the whole system is broken. But that's a big problem. It's a big problem. But it shouldn't be that way. And another thing shouldn't be is going to prom. For that sake. All right. So again, that's if I say the most important thing to do in your high school years is to formulate your character. Now, character development doesn't only mean that like learning Sifrei Musar. The high school experience is designed also to help you mold your character. Social interactions, how you are a good friend to people, how you learn to be resilient when you get screwed over, like all the things that high school kids experience, the icker of it all is to develop myself into the best person I can be. That should be fun. It shouldn't be pressure. It should be fun. It should be an enjoyable ride. I tried to make it for at least for my students. If I learned one thing from Hillel, it was to finesse. Right now, again, finessing in life is an important midah, but it has to be done with integrity. It has to be done. It has to be done in an honest way. I
No.
finesse. No, no. Hillel has become an unfortunate. Listen, what's gonna be? What's gonna be? High school. Listen, it could be vicious.
Prom
Those people.
hate, halal hate. This is peak sheer right now.
If a person is not developing their character and they're living their life to gain and benefit for themselves, which again, I love America, but the society, the culture is an incredibly they shove this ideology of selfishness down a person's throat where everything becomes about you and your success and whatever it is. There's no collectivism like that. It's an individualistic society. It's not a society that cares about the person next to you. So if you're finessing for yourself, it's all about sort of that social that selfish element to it. That's a problem. You should be developing your character and your skills, but in the context of character development. People would be nicer. There wouldn't be as much bullying or and everything's a one up, a status. Like I have to outdo this person and that person. And those people who are developing their character and doing the things that I refuse to do, I have to put them down. I have to rip on them because it makes me feel better about myself because it's a dog eat dog world. And who's going to get a better grade? Who's going to get a better grade on the playground? That's where this all comes from. Selfishness,
Playground, there's
insecurity.
grades.
No, I mean like in the social sphere. Like I need to one up this person because that's my higher score, right? Me being the popular, me making fun of them gets me that's my figuratively higher score on my social test. It's a problem. It is definitely a problem. And so is prom. Prom is a problem too, especially in a Jewish school. Sorry, Shira. It's the theme of the evening. All right, Chevra, we are up to this amazing chapter. Don't miss out on self-realization that we have an opportunity in front of us that we cannot miss out. There are certain issues for which a mild warning is sufficient. And there are others that require additional explanation and even double warnings. The issue that we're going to discuss falls into the latter category. A feeble warning is insufficient. Up until now, we've mentioned it sporadically. The time has come for greater elaboration and more detailed instruction. About to get locked in over here. We'll do just 2 paragraphs and then we'll stop because I definitely have the inkling to cook and it is late. So the Gemara teaches us that a mitzvah that comes our way, we should not let the opportunity slip by. It goes without saying that if missing out on this mitzvah is a negative thing for one must do teshuva, then totally missing out on one's entire self and all that he's capable of accomplishing must be so terrible that there's hardly any teshuva to atone for it. What does he mean? If you have an opportunity to do a mitzvah and you pass up on it, you're going to be held accountable for it. If you pass it up, as in, okay, if I give up the opportunity, right? Someone could have helped the person was needed help carrying all their bags. So the person next to me ran. Okay, so I missed out on the opportunity. It's not an avera, but I missed the opportunity. But if it was an avera, as in I missed out on an opportunity to do something that now I need to do teshuva for, then missing out on all of your own potential is so severe that maybe there's no teshuva that exists bichlal. Your job here is to maximize your potential. That's literally what God asks you to do of yourself. You pass up on that. When I look at kids who have the craziest potential, I interview them. I see them in the summer. I see all that they can be. It kills me to watch them go and decide for themselves to be average because they're lazy or because they this or whatever the reason is. It's like, what is going on? You're passing up. It's not a mitzvah. You're passing up on you. Unfortunately, there are so many young people who are afflicted with this problem. In chapter 7, we caution you against relying on the years that are still ahead of you and your body that is yet to grow, and against hoping that your negative character traits would somehow solve themselves once you grow up, because that is a unconscious philosophy that most people have. And I hear it when people say the stupidest things where it's like, yeah, when I'm older and married, I'm gonna have a Shomer Shabbat home. And I'm like, okay, can you tell me what year that's going to, like, when in your journey, we talked about this before, I'm gonna get married one day, all of a sudden, boom, and now I'm married, now I'm Shomer Shabbos. Look at that. It's just how it happened. Unconsciously, kids always rely on
People
the
do
father
that
to take
though.
care of their problem.
Like I know a lot of families where like that's their story. Like they got married and they started keeping Shabbat. Like they said that and then they did it.
Mazel tov. One isolated example does not undermine
No, I'm
the
saying that's a
principle of the
common thing
rule.
in like Hillel like families that I know.
That's a common thing. Like we're just going to keep Shabbat when we.
Like maybe it's not the same to the same extent as Shabbat in other places, but like they're keeping
I would
Shabbat.
venture to think so. That it doesn't keeping Shabbat, going from not keeping Shabbat to keeping Shabbat is not something. When you look at Hilchas Shabbos, that is a massive, massive set of svarim. It's
I
not an
think
easy thing.
I think even if they did end up keeping Shabbat, it's about the consistency, I think, is the hardest part. And if you just start then being consistent is gonna feel like impossible.
Yes, let's stay on point though. There is a methodology to healthy growth, and very very few people can take the overnight approach. But the point more is being that if a person believes in their heart, that was just the example of Shabbos, that the years ahead of me will be the thing that automatically changes me. When I'm older, I'm not going to be angry. It's such a stupidity and it's such a mistake. When I'm older, I'm not going to be like this. I'm doing it now, but when I'm older, I'm not. Says who? Says who? When you are outsourcing your problems to your future when your decisions today make you who you are. There was somebody was talking about like the type of guy they want to marry, and they're describing that guy. And I'm so sorry. I don't mean to be rude, but that guy would never look at you. You're describing this person, perfect guy. Does that guy want you? Why would that guy want you? You do nothing of those things, of any of those values of what that person has. Now, I didn't say it that harsh. I said it a little bit nicer. But like, are you crazy? I'm gonna have this guy, and he's gonna be this, and he's gonna be that. And he's going to want you, who's none of those things. Are you crazy? Oh, because when I get older, it'll just magically happen. I'll marry that guy, and then I'll be that guy. Anyone who outsources their growth to any other time period but today, where you're supposed to actually make that change, you are going to be tomorrow what you decide to become today based on your actions. You cannot allow time to just do that for you. Because you may grow older in years, you, the person inside, will stay the same. And I gave this example before. Somebody sits, they eat, they poop, they sleep, they breathe oxygen. Their body is going to get bigger and stronger and older. But spiritually, your maturity, right, where you're at, your spiritual, your character, that doesn't change unless you change it. And that's why there are so many. What today's 18-year-old is yesterday's 14-year-old. Back in the day, like you look at your grandparents, they're 13 and 14 years old, they had jobs and responsibilities. Now you have these 18, 19-year-old kids who are kvetchy and whiny and they're babies and they have no resilience. What happened? What happened? If you don't exercise the spiritual muscles, you stay the same. That's what happened. Parents just want to make everything so easy for their kid, and kids don't want to work on themselves. So you just stay as a child. So you can have the same conversations with a 22-year-old who's in college as you will with a 15-year-old who's beginning their journey. And that's the craziest thing. That's how the soul works. It doesn't grow. The same way that food is fuel for the body to grow, growth is for the soul. And if you starve your soul of growth, it's just not going to go anywhere. These words of caution are not only relevant as far as purifying your negative midos, they are true regarding the acquisition of superlative midos in the ways of Hasidus as well. And not only do they apply to one who relies entirely on the aging process without putting any effort in at all, they apply as well to one who wants to make the effort but misses the opportunity to do so. Such a person suffers from spiritual apathy. Sorry, atrophy, meaning spiritual torture, right? I'm sorry, mushkas. They suffer internally from these things because their whole life is living. And I, again, I hate to say it, but like a lot of people who pass up on the opportunity to go to Shiva Seminary and they go into college, they live with that every single day because they're just like, I keep missing these opportunities. There's a student of mine who I'm pretty close with, and every opportunity, there's always a reason why they couldn't pull through. And now it's been 2 years, and they're just like, oh, I feel. It's like you shouldn't be here right now, not physically here. You should be in a much more elevated position, but you keep passing up on every opportunity that is going to help you change. On the reverse, there's another student who I called out and I said, I literally said, I was like, you're isolating yourself the entire year. You have very few friends in this school because you keep isolating yourself. Because every time that there's an opportunity, come on a Shabbaton, come here, every time they just pass up on it. And I was so impressed because last week they just said, okay, I'm going to go for it. They signed up for TJJ. I was blown away by it, because it was like you spent an entire year passing up on opportunities. And well, I can't out them.
Oh, you can't say. Yeah.
But just like, yeah, take the opportunity. A person who doesn't do that, they're always going to be sitting there going like, oh, you know how many people, by the way, you're going to see in the summer, how many people who don't complete the program, right? The insane growth program, they're going to turn around. They're going to be like, oh my God, they're going to see the results of their friends physically, but also spiritually and how much they're going to be taking. She's like, oh, I should have done it. I should have done it. Don't live your life in regret. The time is now, right now. In Achshav Emosai. You can always, there's a later time for it. Do things now. Start working today. Start molding yourself today. Time is it? Here we go. Last paragraph. Therefore, dear students of Hasidus, if you want to protect yourself from the sickness from which there is virtually no cure, chas v'shalom, which is the wasting of time and potential, then be very careful not to miss out on any opportunities in Avodas Hashem. Don't say, I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll wait a while before such and such. When you have studied all the issues, behaviors, and directives that we've presented up until this point, don't dilute yourself by saying, this isn't for me. I'm too young. When I get older, I'll pick up some things to work on. And then I'll be ready. Then I'll be really old and I'll work on other things. These words should horrify you. If you talk this way, if you ever catch yourself saying, when I'm older, it's such and such my potential, it should horrify you. You don't want to be that type of person. Jump back from the thoughts of this nature and know that they are words of the Yetzer Hara who want to kill you spiritually and cause you to lose out on both worlds, God forbid. Because yes, are you losing out on your whole Olam Haba after 120 when you sit there and God looks at you and says, well, what'd you do with your whole life? I brought you down here. I didn't do anything with it. Okay, but what about Olam Hazeh as well? Living your whole life average or reaching the potential that you're capable of. God does not build a person with a potential that he's not willing or he's not able to reach and obtain. How do you do that? You focus on today. What do I need to do? I need to change my habits. I need to start working on myself, mold myself into something, right? Get rid of my negative mitos. Start to, in a healthy way, adopt positive mitos into my life. Stay away from prom. All these things. This is what's going to get a person to the spiritual stature that they need to be. Time could be your best friend. It could also be an enemy. Mothers. Your time matters. It goes in one direction and it does not go backwards at all. Yes, no, 100%. 100% they do. Non-Jews have free will. Non-Jews have the same level of now in terms of their purpose, right? Could be very different in terms of the mission of what they were brought here to do. But you see that a lot of these unbelievable books of incredibly disciplined people, they're written by non-Jews who have spirituality in their life, who have, now it could be that they came to it not because a sense of a mandated purpose from above, like we do, right? This is what Hashem demands of us as Jews. We're servants, and this is what we need to do. Could be that they came to it all. They have like a personal attraction to developing their character because it does feel very, very good. We're gonna pick up next week, God willing, or the week after, depending on whatever, to finish this chapter to understand the unbelievable gift that we have about being a teenager and what we can do with it today. All right. Questions, comments, concerns, recipes,
Emoji.
emojis,
Let's do salsa dancer and disco ball for prom.
or lack thereof.
Yeah.
Isolated, one dancer by
Single
themselves.
dancer, alone, in their house, having their own solo prom that they hosted by
They would never
themselves.
post it on media, right? On social media, they would get roasted for that.
They could
Guys, I had
AI
prom in
people.
yeah, right. Now, Hadar, you unmuted a rarity. So what's up?
I was gonna say, like, I think this chapter is gonna be really good.
This
Like, I
chapter
have
is
chills.
it's
It's
extremely
so
it's
full
extremely hype.
circle of like
It's
everything
extremely hype, guys. You get one life to live. You have one life to live, and it's crazy how much time is wasted. Really,
going
not
to prom.
no, not just from like TikTok and stuff, but like think about it. How much of your valuable time, especially in the most formidable years of your life, is wasted? It's scary, So when you get yourself juiced up on this stuff, and you're like, yeah, I'm going back to Israel on a growth-oriented program because I need to figure this stuff out. Yeah, it's fun. Kids who go and take internships in the summer, I want to puke. What are you doing? You're gonna be your entire life gonna be spent working. Take an internship on yourself. Intern yourself. Anyway,
Wait, question. Oh, end the recording.
all right, can I Chaya Suri? Oh no, whoops. How do we do this?
Bye bye.
And